I find it's of the utmost importance to begin to look at this whole left versus right debate from a higher perspective. Now, I want to start by framing this all in that everybody's reality is being created by their experience. We begin to learn that when certain things happen, then this proceeds to happen. So, for example, I touch this hot flame and I get hurt. Or I open my heart in relationships and they leave. We begin to learn through these traumas. We begin to experience this world through our interactions with the world. Some things are being passed down from our ancestors, that this group of people are bad or these things happen to us. And then as well, some things are being passed down through the social or cultural beliefs of the group that we're in. Example, we're supposed to work 40 to 50 hours a week in order to be successful. Now, these traumas, these experiences, they help shape that belief system that we're in. And they're both individual beliefs as well as collective beliefs. Now, it's also important to remember that this restricts our free will in that we're acting from the unconscious and all these beliefs, all these traumas are being stored in it. So we're only acting upon these unconscious beliefs, these unconscious programming of how reality works and how our experience is happening within the greater system. Our actions are going to be shaped by this greater system, by this belief system that we're holding that ought to be true because of time and time again, these things happening over and over. So our experience is shaped by our traumas and our beliefs. And this is so important because now all of a sudden we begin to pass judgments on others because of a different belief system, because of a different experience. And now within these experiences, especially within these shared experiences, we begin to gain acceptance. We begin to gain validation for our own experiences, for our own plights, for our own traumas. We begin to find others who have had shared experiences, who have had shared belief systems that believe the world ought to be a certain way, to begin to validate one another, to begin to find that commonality and find that belonging within ourselves and within our social circles. What this does is this invalidates their own experience. This invalidates their own traumas in saying that something wasn't right, that your perspective, that your system isn't the way that it should be, and something within you isn't right. These judgments cause people to think that they need to change their belief systems in order to align with the other. But as we know, this just creates more and more tension, more and more friction. For when we approach somebody with a different belief system, with a very aggressive and hostile approach, it's not going to solve anything. Nobody is going to change to be able to see a different perspective when they're being confronted and told that their own experiences are invalid. And again, these experiences are subjective in that they shift and respond differently to the observer, to the individual who is experiencing these things. Now, this is why it's of the utmost importance to come at these things from a higher perspective, to raise that consciousness to begin to see from a new vantage point. When we begin to see these things through that higher perspective, we begin to see how individuals are acting and responding to their environment, to their situations, through their unconscious traumas and through their unconscious belief systems. That these experiences created the world that they're in, that these experiences help give meaning, help define what their interaction with reality would look like. And it's important because we can still have compassion, we can still have love for the systemic injustices that are happening to so many populations, so many marginalized communities each and every day. But we can also have compassion for all the individuals involved in all these processes, and for all individuals, regardless of their political orientations. Again, remember, unity consciousness involves everything and everyone. It's that unconditional acceptance and validation of all these experiences, and that all these experiences are okay. And this higher perspective, this higher vantage point, will begin to help us bridge that gap through love, through this unconditional love and compassion, to help us see both sides of the spectrum. And now, with unity consciousness, this is a collective process. This is a collective awareness, and where we're raising that consciousness to a higher level. We're collectively together raising that frequency of our collective consciousness. And now, unity consciousness, it can't just be up in the ethers, it needs to be embodied. It needs to be brought down, integrated into this lower dimension. And one of the ways that we can begin to embody this is through the frequency of neutrality. By embodying the frequency of neutrality, we'll begin to expand that awareness and to expand that understanding, to begin to not judge others simply because of their own experience. So how can we begin to become more aware of our own judgments of others? And how can we begin to shift those judgments to a higher vantage point, to be able to see that higher understanding? Because remember, God loves all his children, and all of his children's experiences are valid. All of his children's perspectives are valid because that's what they experienced. So I invite you to step into your heart space, to embody a more grounded spirituality, so that we can begin to see these processes from that higher perspective, so that we can begin to open up our heart space to all individuals, regardless of where they are on the spectrum, and to allow them into this heart space with true unconditional love.